What can I tell you about our final storyteller? She obtained her bachelor's in science degree in biochemistry and psychology from the University of Hawaii. She is now a first-year graduate student at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And in her spare time, she enjoys cozy video games, reading, yoga, and powerlifting. Please make some noise and welcome to the stage, Pamela Toh.
My parents are adorable, and that's a fact. They went to kindergarten together, they've been best friends for almost 50 years, and they used to keep a collaborative journal where they would write down things their kids would say. One entry wrote, "Pamela's been asking me some very interesting questions. How long do we have to wait until today? Can we ever stop counting? Do we feel wind because the earth is spinning?" I think that last one's pretty good for a 4-year-old. Another entry wrote, "I don't know why, but Pamela's favorite phrase is, 'I don't like you.' Because my parents were amazing, but I was a little shit. I had such an awful attitude, you couldn't tell me nothing. I never did what I was told, and definitely not homework. That became an issue when I started going to school. Now, I went to kind of a mean school, and I think when I say that, people think the students were mean. But no, the teachers were the mean ones. So when I was 10, I had a teacher who was particularly mean. And as usual, I didn't do my homework. And as usual, I just said I left it at home. 10-year-old logic, what are you gonna do? And so me and a few other students were made to stand at our desks for the duration of class. But not before this teacher went around to each and every one of us and searched our bags to see if we were lying about not bringing our homework. I remember I watched as this man, tall and lanky, with hair like a pit of spikes, stalk through these statue-frozen children in uniforms like he was some kind of warden. There was only the whir of the fans and the sound of his interrogation as to how and why we came to be such failures. He got to the desk of a student who was stood a little ways in front of me, someone that I was frequently punished alongside. And this grown man picked up this child's backpack, flipped it over, and shook the contents onto the floor. He reached down and picked up a crumpled sheet of paper and waved the blank homework in front of this boy's face, taunting him. He usually screamed at us, but this time, his voice dripping with this sinister calm, he just asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And this boy, his voice barely a whisper, like this was a secret he never told anyone before. He said, "I want to be a scientist." And this young man, who had barely started growing up himself, threw his head back and laughed in this boy's face and said, "You have to be smart to be a scientist," as he let that crumpled piece of paper fall to the floor. Watching this as a 10-year-old, it never occurred to me that anything he was saying might be untrue. Your teachers teach you. That means they're telling you the truth, that scientists are capital S smart and that there's something capital W wrong with you. And when you're made to be the failure, you have two options. One, you allow yourself to be reformed by the cruelty of individuals you do not respect. Or two, you lean into it. And I leaned into it. I was that kid giving people piercings in the bathroom with a safety pin. We had a couple teachers who would make you stand in the hallway if you didn't do the work, and I would just walk out when they got there. Like, I have nothing for you, and you have nothing for me. And every day when I got home from school, my mom would ask me, "What did you learn today?" And every day, my answer was always, "Nothing." Nobody was safe to ask questions to anymore. And I held on to that mentality, that shield, all throughout primary and secondary school, all throughout graduating at the bottom of my class, and all through not being able to get into any schools. And my parents, the kindest, most supportive, most patient people in the world, they saw all the garbage that I had to offer, and they said, "Let's try again somewhere else." My dad leveraged his job to get his company to move us from Singapore to Dubai, because geographical cures are still cures. But my mentality around school and educators hadn't changed, so it was all the same to me. Now, I spent a full year doing absolutely nothing before moving, so I was 17 when I started high school. And by then, half my arm was covered in tattoos, half my head was shaved, and in this hoity-toity private preparatory school, I was the only one like me. And old habits die hard, so I promptly failed my first chemistry exam. Got probably a 10% on it because exams were my favorite time to nap. And my chemistry teacher asked me to see her in her office after class. And I thought, here we go again, another lecture from another teacher on what a waste of space I am. I dragged my feet to her office, already anticipating the venom that I was used to, that I thought I was immune to. And it felt like someone had poured concrete into my chest. This was supposed to be my second chance. But here I was again, another failure, another disappointment. It felt like the concrete had risen to my throat as I sank deeper into that office chair, frozen, just like that day when I was 10. I looked down at my exam, waiting for the lashing, thinking, I've been in this position most of my life. There is nothing you can say that I haven't heard before. And she said, "How can I teach you better? Because I know you can do better than this." She said something I hadn't heard before. And the resonance of her question shattered me. Her words echoed through the abyss inside my chest and shook my entire being. Me? You're asking me, what do I know? I'm a kid, I don't know anything. You can look at this exam and see that I don't know anything. You can ask anyone who has ever tried to teach me and they will tell you the truth, that I am hopeless. How do you know I can do better than this? When all I've shown you is wreckage, how can you still see the remains of a ship? The dam in my chest broke open, and I bawled in her office that day. After that, she kept asking me questions. More questions that disarmed me. More things I hadn't heard before. Why is the sky blue? Why does it change colors? What is light? What is fire? Why can't we untoast toast? I saw her questions and returned the same, and eventually I started engaging with what I was being taught. Now, I still had zero work ethic, but she taught me how to ask questions, how to use them like tethers to connect with the world around and within me, how to hold on until I found an answer. That chemistry teacher was the first research scientist I ever interacted with. She got her PhD in biochemistry before going into education, and she was the one who got me on to the path to becoming a scientist myself. Because it turns out, and I'll let you in on a little secret, science isn't about being capital S smart. It's about having the curiosity to ask questions and the persistence to find their answers. And that's why now, at the end of the day, when I leave the lab and I call my mom, I can't wait to tell her all the things I've learned.